When did it start? We fell apart. You walked the line straight out of my heart. Why did you do it? Why put me through it? What was the purpose? Was it all worth it? Tell me what happened. Thought we had magic. Gave you my heart and you tore it apart. You ran to her, took all of my worth. I'm calling to you. Please tell me the truth. I gave her the proof, and she still chose you. Don't know what to do. Gave my all to you. Gave my all to you. Why did you do it? Why put me through it? What was the purpose? Was it all worth it? Was I just practice? A test wasn't magic. A test wasn't magic.
I want to say a pleasant good evening to you, and you, wherever you are tuning from. Welcome to Born Winners Network, and I'm your host, Bishop One, and I'll be with you for the next hour as we, talk about some things that are very, 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 very intriguing and near and dear to my heart. How are you doing? How are you doing out there in Radio Land, and how are you doing out there on the various platforms that allow us to be a part of your listening pleasure? Just a few housekeeping things. Remember that we are live each and every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., where, God has given us a very wonderful opportunity to be on social media, to freely talk and, talk things that make a lot of sense, right? To empower, inspire, and to educate those of you who give us the opportunity to speak into your lives. So we're continuing on with a lesson here dealing with vulnerability. We started talking about it last week, and so we want to finish up and probably make a little more progress this week than we did last week, and hopefully it will just continue to be an inspiration to each and every one of you. All right, you're listening to my daughter there singing in the background. Beautiful song called "Last Call." And you can find her on Spotify under the name Keosha. That is Keocia. And definitely like, share, and just leave a comment on the Spotify platform. Let her know that, you've been checking her out and that you heard, her on Born Winners Network. And just encourage her. We have to encourage our young people. All right, so thank you very much. I want to send a big shout out to brother Lennox out of Florida. A pleasant good evening to you, and those of you who always join us on the platform, welcome and good evening to you. Listen, I want to give a shout out to my church and church family over there at Crossfire Worship Center. You can join us each and every Sunday from 9:45 for our Sunday school. And you can stay with us until 11 for our services, all right? We are located here at 1301 8th Street in Bowie, Maryland. That's 1301 8th Street in Bowie, Maryland, under the leadership of Bishop Dr. Stulen and Reverend Deborah Taylor. So join us. One of the Sundays that you're visiting the DMV area and you're just looking for a home church, come on down to Crossfire Worship Center. All right? Once again, we are located at 13010. That's 13010 8th Street in Bowie, Maryland. And you can fellowship with us there. All right. You can check us out on YouTube as well. Just simply search for Crossfire Worship Center. And you can follow us online at www.crossfireworshipcenter.com. That's www.crossfireworshipcenter.com. All right, so that's it for our housekeeping and preliminary things. Let's get into our topic for today. All right. What is the definition of vulnerability? All right, what is the definition of vulnerability? So, vulnerability, it is having a uncertain risk and emotional exposure to people or to the person that you love, right? So the definition of exposure, one that I like really, it is to I'm sorry, the definition of vulnerability, it is uncertainty, it is taking a risk, and have exposing yourself emotionally to someone that you love. All right, and so with that definition of in mind, I want you guys to kind of wrap your head, around the concept of love, right? Think about waking up every single day and loving someone who may not love you back, whose safety you can ensure, someone who stays in your life, or somebody who may leave you at a drop of a dime, or someone who may be loyal until the day they die, or betray you tomorrow. All right, love is while love is beautiful, love is not certain, right? And so that's vulnerability. Love is uncertain. Love is risky, and loving someone leaves us emotionally exposed. And it can be a very scary process. And, you have to open up your mind to say, okay, if I'm gonna be in love, man, I'm gonna be vulnerable. I know I'm gonna open myself to the possibility of being hurt, or the possibility of living my life being in love or never finding love at all. All right, and that's just the harsh reality of what we are dealing with. And so last week we spoke about some biblical examples, starting with the book of Genesis, where we saw an example of vulnerability, right? With Adam and Eve, where after Eve was deceived, and then Eve kind of brought Adam into the mix of all that debacle, right? They were suddenly made aware that they were naked, and once they kind of, I guess, acknowledge that fact, then they try to hide from God. Check it out for yourself in Genesis chapter 3, verse 7 through 10. And so that particular scene, it revealed the essence of human vulnerability. Our recognition of our limitations and our instinctive desire to conceal our weakness. And then, fast forward, we kind of talked about David in the book of Psalm, where we saw where David penned a lot of his emotions, mostly after he had found himself in a predicament with God. The Psalms, it expresses human frailty from David's perspective before God, and many of us, we utilize David's expression of vulnerability in our times of weakness when we come before God, because David experienced it. And then as we jump into the New Testament, we see where Paul, spoke of his vulnerability in terms of his weakness, particularly in the second letter to the Corinthians. Paul talks about having a thorn in his flesh that kept him from becoming conceited, and that reminds us that vulnerability can serve a spiritual purpose. Check it out for yourself in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 9. And so the Bible presents a lot of examples about vulnerability, and it doesn't present it as being a flaw to be overcome, but as an essential aspect of our humanity. It's our vulnerability that we are invited to experience God's strength. It's through our vulnerability that we are invited to experience God's love and experience the most profound expression of God's grace. As we embrace vulnerability before God and one another, we will find ourselves being open to the transformative power of God's divine love. And so the Bible talks about it, and it doesn't address it exclusively, but we do have some examples of individuals who found themselves in some very precarious situation. And so I'm not going to keep on going down this scriptural path because I want to dig into some more things. And so those are just some examples. David and Adam and Eve and Paul, those are some examples, right, that are in the Bible that are intended to teach us that vulnerability, it is not a sign of weakness, but it's an opportunity for God's grace to work, to work and to work powerfully in our lives. And so those examples, if you really look at them, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, they should encourage us to own our vulnerability, and also teach us that we must trust that God can use our weakness for His glory and for our spiritual growth. And so, with that premise laid, the question then comes to mind: what then does vulnerability mean, or how does vulnerability look in a relationship? And so, being in a relationship, right? And it entails so many things. It entails, you being willing and open to accept certain facts that this relationship may or may not work. Being vulnerable in a relationship, it means that you are willing to invite your partner to know all sides of your personality. You want your partner to know your fears. You want your partner to know your feelings. You want your partner to know your thoughts. You want your partner to know your flaws, and you want your partner to understand that you are not perfect and that you also face challenges. But oftentimes, many of us, we don't reveal who we really are, do we? Right? And if you don't reveal who you really are in a relationship, right, you are restricting yourself from achieving true intimacy, and from being able to feel accepted by your partner for who you are. Being vulnerable, it's the path to being known, it's the path to being accepted, it's the path to being loved. And but however, despite being drawn to connecting with others and having experienced advantages, many of us are still dreading that vulnerability plays a significant part in relationships. I said last week that vulnerability, it matters in your marriages. It matters in your relationships. Vulnerability, it can be uncomfortable. I will say that. And and if we know that it's uncomfortable, then why is it that I'm encouraging you that you should try to be vulnerable? Right? Why is it that it is necessary, even though it is a very uncomfortable thing to do? Right? And watch this now. When you decide to become vulnerable and open up, you are hoping that your partner will see you as being real. And it's okay to be fearful, to show your weaknesses, to show your fears, to show your flaw. It's okay, but guess what? Try to do it, and I absolutely guarantee you that things will work out a little bit differently for you. Now, with that being said, how can we cultivate, or how can we build true vulnerability? And it may sound a lot easier than it actually is, right? It's something that we have to learn. We have to be taught how to be vulnerable. And some of us, we aren't taught to expect love and safety. But you should be, read some books, go to some seminars, listen to more podcasts like this that will teach you how to prepare yourself for love, how to be on the receiving side of love, and how to find safety in your relationships. And much of our relationships don't adhere to these concepts. A lot of relationships, man, it's based on deception, right? A lot of relationships, it's based on people who just want to use other people because they realize that they're too nice, or they may have some weaknesses that they can just walk all over you. But the good news is that there are ways to work on your approach to vulnerability. And there are some tangible steps that we can take to prioritize this particular character in a relationships. Last week I said that there were about 10 things that I wanted to talk about. First thing, be fully present. Be fully present. Stop multitasking. And sometimes just filter out the noise and focus on what is directly in front of you. But but this concept of always juggling, the juggling act, It's something that we see on social media. It's something that we see portrayed in society. I have to be doing 50 million one thing, 50 million and one things, or else I don't feel as if I am accomplished. But we have to begin to now, trim the fat, so to speak. Begin to isolate certain things so that we can be fully present in the moment. To be vulnerable, you need to feel a sense of safety from your partner. And then you may say, well, Bishop, how do I express safety? How do I feel a sense of safety from my partner? When your partner needs your attention, put away the Instagram, put away the what is it? They used to be tweet or whatever it is right now, or Facebook. Put that stuff away. Turn off the television, or wait until the kiddies have gone to sleep, where you can truly be intentional about being present and giving your partner your undivided attention, so that you won't be engaged in anything that is distracting, so that you can talk about some hard topics. Stop splitting your attention between your partner and a million other distractions. Because if you do that, that will tell your partner that you are not fully invested. Make it a rule that the two of you put away the little tech things, the phones. Make it, I'm gonna put this away. Put it on sleep mode if you need to. When it's needed. Allow your partner to speak uninterrupted. Don't cut them off. Listen and really listen intentionally. Ask the right questions. I'm going through the stuff. These are some things that you want to implement if you really want to get your relationship to a healthier place. Be fully present. Make yourself available. Allow your partner to speak uninterrupted. Ask the right questions. But you can't ask the right questions, right, if you're not listening. You can't ask the right questions if you're not fully present. And so, watch this now. If you are allowing your partner to speak and you're quiet, that means that you're listening, yes? And once you've listened, once your partner is done speaking and you've listened to what they've had to say, then process. Don't just begin to spit stuff off. Don't try to refute and rebuff. Don't try to counteract. Don't try to have an immediate response, because that will only breed hostility and cause your partner to become defensive. In order for vulnerability to grow, it's absolutely essential to make your partner feel that you're hearing them, to make your partner, understand that you see them, and to cause your partner to feel supported. And once they are done speaking, listen to what I'm saying to you. Once they're done speaking, consider asking this. All right, babes, I heard you. Now, how can I support you? How can I change that for you? And the truth is, you may not always have all the answers. And you may not be able to fix the issue. At least not every issue, but allowing them to speak and training yourself to listen will let them know that you're willing to try. And just by them being able to see that you're willing to make an attempt, that is a very crucial and critical step. Recognize patterns. Recognize patterns and work with them. Again, each relationship is unique, yeah? Each relationship is unique. There is no cookie cut method that is applicable to every relationship. My relationship may not look like yours. Your relationship may not look like Tom and what's the name of Tom and Susie's. Because and watch this now. It is unique because as individuals we are unique. Recognize people's uniqueness. Recognize their patterns. And learn to work with it. If your partner is the type of person who needs a cooling off period, I was taught this many years ago. Sometimes you will have these explosive arguments, yeah, and then you may have your conscience may pick you and say, you know what, maybe I was wrong, and you wanna try to patch things up right away. I was taught this years ago. Sometimes you may have to go take a walk. The what I was taught is sometimes you may have to go walk the dog, even if you don't have a dog. Go walk the dog. Go walk the cat. Go walk the fish in the bowl. But go take a walk and allow things to kind of settle. Allow the dust to settle. Give give each other some space sometimes, a cool off period. Because the impulse or the instinct to want to run after your partner to sort out the situation and begin to implement a solution to the argument, it's not going to help. Listen to what I'm saying. Learn to have a cool off period. Allow your partner to have the space to be an individual and talk to them about how to reciprocate that. Sometimes they may be caught in their feelings for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, sometimes an entire week. And that's all right because that is their coping mechanism, and you have to learn how to respect their methods of coping to kind of calm down. Because if they don't calm down, they will cuss you from here to Gaza. Understand why it is difficult to open up. Understand why. And don't tell them you're so close-minded. You're so shallow. Don't tell people that. There is a reason why people struggle oftentimes to open up. I can tell you that me, I have that issue where it's at times very difficult for me to open up. People fear vulnerability and intimacy. Yes. Now, if you're just looking for a good time, that's a whole different thing. But if you're really looking for somebody that you can call your person, where you can be truly deeply intimate with and deeply vulnerable with, that's fearful, because that means that you're giving up a little bit of your strength. Vulnerability issues in relationships are often tied to previous relationships. Hello. Often going back to how you were raised as a child. As children, it is said that we are great observers, and we learn about the world and ourselves by watching. That's why parents, be careful of the things that you do around your children, because believe it or not, you may not think that they're watching you, but your children are watching you. They're listening to you. Your children are sponges, and they're absorbing 99.9% of the things that you are portraying and pouring out. And they're just absorbing that stuff. And so if a parent was neglectful, oftentimes and we were subjected to that neglect, we might feel like a burden when needing something, and so we may not ask. Some of us may have been raised in homes where, your parents were too critical or too controlling. So then you begin to feel as if what you do is never good enough. What you say is never good enough. And whatever the case is, we end up feeling that no matter what, I may not be good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good to be myself. And if there's anyone that's listening tonight and you feel like that, you are good enough. And don't let anyone tell you anything less. You are good enough. Expecting that you will not be accepted for who you are can lead to a fear of being vulnerable in relationships. But you are good enough. And if you are with somebody that causes you to think that you're not good enough, well, you need to take a close look at the dynamics of that relationship, because you are good enough and you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. The next point I found was to enrich your emotional vocabulary. What does that mean? Many people don't know how to define what you're experiencing. And if you don't know how to put into words what you're feeling, that can prevent you from sharing, because you may think that, whoever you're trying to express your emotions to may think that you are off, you're crazy, that you're special. To avoid being vulnerable and confused, then people who don't know how to vocabularize, if that's a word, their emotions, they choose to avoid sharing anything at all because they don't want to be misunderstood. And therefore, it might be helpful for us to practice the verbal expressions of our emotions. And once we get to that point where we're able to verbalize what we're feeling, we can try to come up with two more descriptions. And so by doing this, chances of vulnerability in love will then begin to increase, because you will then be able to describe your inner world with more ease and more color. Enrich your emotional vocabulary. Learn how to put your emotions into the spoken word so that people will be better able to interpret what it is that you are feeling. Practice how to slow your mind down. I'm guilty of that because my mind at times tends to be going 1,000 miles an hour. But practice mindfulness. Practice how to slow your mind down. Be more open in your relationship. Learn to be present and express your own emotions with what your partner is sharing, so that you can synchronize, so that there's a better sense of compatibility. Emotional connection and vulnerability in relationships will then begin to increase when we are willing to hear what our partner is saying and devote time and attention to the fleeting moment. Be in the moment. Enjoy the moment. Be spontaneous. Slowing down your mind and your thoughts and practicing mindfulness, it keeps us close to our partner and our own inner experiences. And that is also another a great ingredient for vulnerability. When you begin to practice mindfulness and slow down. Now, these are just some pointers that I came across, and I thought that, wow, these are great. I need to really share this and really, talk about this stuff. Go after what you need. When you're in distress, it becomes easy to be dismissive of your feelings and not to speak up about what we need. Seek what you need. We have not because we ask not. And so seeking what you need, it is one way to prevent further hurt. Set the expectation. Be willing to speak up when you need help and lean on others for support. That's a great way to become more connected. Open up your God-given bless you and speak up. And take things slow. I had to say this to a coworker of mine, looking for love and stuff. I said to her, well, go on the date. Go on a few dates. And don't jump in the sack after date number one. And many of us, that's what we do after date number one. And guess what? That may be your thing. But slow down. And take things slowly. Allow things to happen. I really hate to use the term, but allow things to happen organically. Right? Take it slow down. And even you're listening right now and things may have gone into hyperdrive. That's fine. Pull back the lever and dial it back. Say, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and slow this. Let's slow this bad boy down for a minute. Let's slow this down for a moment because we're moving a little bit too fast. Let's go ahead and slow this. Let's slow this thing down and let's begin to dial back. The fact is, it's not easy to be vulnerable with a man or a woman. It's not easy because you're talking about different personalities coming together as one, yeah? And there is no such thing as a perfect person. None of us are perfect. And even though you get to a point where you believe that you can trust this person, you may still have some reluctance in opening up. But can I tell you this? It's time for you to take a break from the years of shielding yourself from vulnerability in relationships, because what has that gotten you? Hmm? You're behind a wall. You boxed yourself in, so you can't get out, and the person that you got eyes on, they can't get into you because you are behind this protective shielding. But it's time for you to break the mold and come out of that box. Step out of the box. Remove the shield. But as you do that, the best thing that you can do is to follow you. Move at your own pace. Don't allow anybody to put you on a timetable. Move at your own pace. Allow things to happen organically. There is no rush. And don't let anybody tell you, oh, I'm getting older and time is wasting. Well, if that is your concept, I may not be the one for you, because I'm not going to move at your pace. I'm going to move at my pace because I want to be sure that I'm sure. I'm going to take small steps. Whenever people start rushing you and giving you ultimatums, they may not be the one for you because you may not be moving at the pace that they want you to move. Move at your own pace. Let them go ahead. Whatever they're chasing, let them go chase it. Let them go ahead and chase whatever they're chasing. Don't allow them to get in your head and manipulate you. And some of us are good at that. Some of us are great manipulators. And we're so smooth with it too. We're so subtle. But learn to identify the tricks and the gimmicks and the games and shut that stuff down. Walk away from it. Choose who you want to open up to. Being in love and being vulnerable, it can bring so much joy and fulfillment, man. But you increase the chances of enjoying those things when you choose adequately the person that you're going to reveal yourself to. Vulnerability is good in a healthy relationship. It is absolutely good. But it can only be enjoyed when it is not forced and when it is appreciated. Share your authentic thoughts and feelings. Share your authentic thoughts and feelings. Be honest. As a matter of fact, honesty, it is an integral part of vulnerability in relationships. And if you want to feel appreciated for who you are, you need to show your authentic self. So be honest. In addition to expressing your needs and your wants, you should be honest about your perspective and and how you interpret things. That is one environment that is conducive to allowing vulnerability to flourish. When you're able to have an open exchange, when you can feel comfortable in being yourself, when you can say what you feel and what you think, where you can give and receive feedback without defensiveness, where you can be respected. Be honest about your struggles and keep practicing how to be honest. Some things I've learned from being on this platform over the years is, one, I have to always do my homework to have content. And one of the things that helped me to have content was talking about me, myself, my stories, my struggles, my successes, my challenges. And even as a Christian man, I've had some struggles, man. And I'm telling you, had some struggles. I remember going through the phase where I struggled. I mean, I struggled for years with pornography. I mean, I struggled with that thing, and and every time I failed. I mean, I went and I watched something or I did something and I felt so dirty and so ashamed. I would always go before God and ask God to help me, to overcome this because I didn't want to keep doing it. That was a struggle. And then I got to the point where on this very platform, I began to talk about my struggles with what you call it, with pornography, my struggles with drinking, my struggles with being a womanizer, my struggles with lying, just my struggles. And people say, "Man, you talk your business so much." Well, guess what? God gave me a gift, the gift of gab, and God gave me the opportunity to sit on this platform, to be vulnerable, and talk about my struggles and how God helped me to overcome those struggles so that He received the glory and I became, or I am becoming, let's be truthful, a better man. And that means that I'm learning how to be vulnerable. And some people they'll take that and say, oh, you dealt with that and you're no good and you're not. Listen, that's my story, and all of us have a story. Not every single one of us is perfect. Maybe you are, but guess what? I was not born perfect. I am not living a perfect life. But I have come to be very, very thankful that the Word of God, the Bible says that He that has begun to work on me, He is working on me continuously until the day of His return. So I am a work in progress. And so I have some struggles. I've had some victories too. But I have to be honest about my struggles because this is what people can relate to. When someone can say, "Man, I've had some struggles with this, and this, but God was able to bring me out of it," or "God is helping me to get through it," that is powerful. Then people will know that you're the real deal because, you're not sitting, behind this microphone being Mr. Perfect. You've been through some things, you've had some experiences, and that's all right. People will respect you more for that when you are honest and you are open to them and down to earth. So keep practicing to be honest about your struggles. The practice is what will help you master the skill of being vulnerable and being honest about your struggles. What will help you to survive and learn how to communicate what you're going through because that is helpful. It serves as a compass for others to know how to help you, for others to know that, man, if you went through that and God brought you out, well, you must have some tools in your toolkit that you can lend me so that I can also come out of the struggles that I'm dealing with. Each one, reach one, and learn from others. If you're looking to understand how to be vulnerable in relationships, observe more carefully. We all struggle. Am I talking right? We all struggle. Yes, we do. We all struggle with something to a certain extent. All of us. Nobody's perfect. But those struggles can be lessons that you didn't need to acquire on your own because somebody already went through what you are going through or what you are about to go through. So learn from others, like other experiences. And this is why it's good for men like me on platforms like this to share my story. It shows, one, that I'm not perfect. It shows that I'm vulnerable. But then when I overcome the struggles because of prayer, fasting, and the power of God, it gives God the glory. Did you understand that? Also, learn how to look for help. Cry out if you need help. I need help. I can't do this anymore by myself. I need some help. Learn how to combine your vulnerability with wisdom. Fear from being open, right? It can prevent us from being successful. You know that, right? Sharing your previous experiences, whether and being honest, saying that well, it turned out well or it didn't turn out so well. It's okay because it shows that you're human. It shows that you are not perfect, but it also shows that you are a work in progress. So there, I've given you 10 pointers. And let me just kind of go over them again. 10 things that should help you to become more vulnerable in your relationships. 10 things. Yeah, I'm just going to real quickly just itemize them, right? Understand why it is difficult to open up. Enrich your emotional vocabulary because many times we don't know how to verbalize what we're feeling. Learn how to slow your mind down, right? Learn how to be present with your own emotions and with what your partner is sharing. Seek what you need. Set the expectation. Don't be dismissive about your feelings. You're feeling what you're feeling, and what you're feeling is for real. And watch this. Speak up about what you're feeling. Don't hold that stuff inside. Don't bottle that stuff inside. Because if you bottle that stuff up, over time you're going to explode. Take things slow and take it gradually. Don't rush. Learn. Take time to figure out if you can trust him or trust her, but slow down. And then choose what to open up to. Choose who you're going to open up to. Because God knows you can't open up to everybody because not everybody is at the place emotionally where they can receive what it is that you want to share. So be selective. Share your true thoughts and share your true feelings. Don't make stuff up. Be real, for real, for real. And continue to practice how to be honest about your struggles. You're not perfect. You are not perfect. I'm not perfect. But keep practicing how to be honest and learn from others. Learn from the mistakes. Learn from the successes of others. And take a page out of their book. How do they overcome? And lastly, look for help. You have tons of resources out there. Somebody said to me, oh, I don't need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I don't need no shrink. Why not? Because what are they going to tell me that I don't already know? Well, if they can't tell you anything that you don't already know, why are you still messed up? And watch this now. While the Bible is useful, the Bible can be such more of a better resource if it is coupled with prayer and fasting, and if you allow the Holy Spirit to explain scriptures to you so that you will then be able to make the application to your life. The Bible does not, and I said this before, the Bible does not explicitly provide us with a definition for vulnerability. I searched. But the Bible paints a wonderful picture, as Donald Trump would say, a beautiful picture about human experiences that reveal our fragility and our dependence on God's grace. And so vulnerability from a biblical perspective, because it's one thing I do. When I begin to look for things to talk about, I look for I search for topics from a biblical perspective or from a biblical context. And so I realized that vulnerability in a biblical context or from a biblical perspective, it is intimately connected to our human condition, to our mortality, to our limitations, and our need for divine mercy. And so, as I close, as we navigate the challenges of life, we are called to embrace our vulnerability and trust in God's provision. And that may mean that you need to surrender your pride. It may mean that you need to admit your weaknesses or overcome resentment and find biblical teachings that emphasize forgiveness and love for our neighbors. Bottom line is, recognizing and accepting vulnerability will allow us to experience God's transformative power in our lives. Did I say that right? And I'm closing. Recognizing and accepting our vulnerability allows us to experience God's transformative power in our lives. And I'm closing with that tonight. If there's anything that I've said that has definitely made an impact on your life, I'm not going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you to go before the Lord. And just as much as you would speak to your friends or whomever via text, I want you to speak to the Lord just like that. And be very honest with God. He wants to hear from you. He sure does. And ask Him to lead you and direct you into truth, because you want to become a better person. You want to become a person that has overcome struggles, that overcome your weaknesses. You want to become a person that will now be able to have a successful relationship. All right? So make it about God and try me. Try to challenge yourself based on the things that I've said. I gave you 10 pointers. Put it to the test. And then come back and tell me how that has worked for you. That's my show, y'all. And don't you forget that you shouldn't allow anything or anyone to cause you to have a bad day, because quite frankly, guess what? They don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. Until next week, yours truly, Bishop One. Peace. I'm out of here.